Okay. Hello. Now
Good
we'll,
afternoon.
yeah, good afternoon. So we'll start the session now. I'm Shrija Ghosh and I'm a PMRF in IIT Kanpur. And today is the fifth problem solving session for the course Environmental Chemistry and Microbiology. The course instructors are Professor Anjali Pal and Professor Sudha Goel from IIT Kharagpur. So I'll start now.
Ma'am, just I want to say something, ma'am. I
Yeah,
have
sure.
some query of the week six, like some numericals, ma'am can teach now. I'm not able to understand like this, so I request to like I put a feedback also, and I request to team or you also, ki is possible. Can you take some numericals or you arrange some sessions for that questions also?
For the week 6, like next week, Saturday is the scheduled session for the 6th week's assignment.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. So,
okay, fine.
yeah. So, we can have the discussion at that time. I'll clarify all the questions. Okay?
Okay, sure, fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. Just a second, my screen froze. Yeah. Just wait for a second, I'll reshare my screen. Yeah. So, question number 1, the full form of THM is. So, this is a very simple question. If you have gone through the lecture series, you would have seen THMs are nothing but these are trihalomethanes. So, what are trihalomethanes? The answer for this question is C, trihalomethane. But what do we mean by trihalomethane? So, we have methane, we all know what is methane. Methane is CH4. So, 4 hydrogen atoms are attached to the carbon atom. So, when we say trihalomethane, that means 3 of the hydrogen atoms are substituted with the halogen atom. So, what are halogens? Uh, so, all these chlorine, bromine, iodine, these are halogen molecules. So, trihalomethane means, so in here as in the example you can see CHCl3. That means in place of 3H we have 3Cl. So, 3 CHCl3 or CHBr3. So, in place of 3 hydrogen there are 3 bromine atoms. So, trihalo. Then it can be a hybrid also. So, one a different kind of halogen and 2 different kinds of halogen. So, CHCl Br2. So, dibromo monochloro methane. So, you have 1 chlorine and 2 bromine in place of 3 hydrogens. Okay, and it can be vice versa also. So, 2 chlorine atoms and 1 bromine atom in place of 3 hydrogens. So, these are trihalomethanes. Okay, and it is abbreviated as THM. Okay. So, moving to the next question. Question number 2. At what pH chlorine in water acts as a hypochlorite only. So, when we add chlorine in water, why do we add chlorine in water? For disinfecting the water. Okay. So, at different pH, chlorine remains in the water in different forms. So, there are, after addition of chlorine, after the chlorine reacts with water, there are certain free residuals of chlorine that are present in water. What are those three residues? There are free residues of chlorine that are Cl2, HOCl, that is hypochlorous acid, and hypochlorites, that is OCl minus ions. So, HOCl further dissociates into H plus and OCl minus. Okay. So, now at different pH, different forms of these residual chlorine is present in water. So, it is they have asked at what pH hypochlorite will be present. So, for that we have a simple curve that represents the distribution of hypochlorous acid versus hypochlorite ion. So, if you see in this curve, so you see percentage HOCl is given in on LHS and percentage of OCl minus is given on the right hand side of the y axis. Okay. So, if you see percent HOCl, it is at the starting 100 at pH below 5. Okay, at pH below 5, around pH 4, percentage of HOCl is 100 and there is no OCl minus present, hypochlorite is not present. As we keep on increasing the pH, the amount of HOCl keeps on decreasing. Okay. So, as we keep on increasing the pH, the amount of HOCl keeps on decreasing and the amount of OCl minus keeps on increasing. So, let us say at pH 7, we have around 80% of HOCl and around 20% of OCl minus. Again at pH 8, we have around 30% of HOCl and 70% of OCl minus. So, you see, as we are increasing the pH, OCl minus is increasing. Okay. So, what will happen at a higher pH, after the pH 10, there will be 100% of OCl minus and 0% of HOCl. So, what was the question? In the question they have asked at what pH hypochlorite is present once chlorine is added in water. So, above the pH 10, answer C, option number C is the correct answer. pH greater than 10, because you can see in the curve pH greater than 10, 100% of the OCl minus is present. Okay. So, I hope this is clear. So, the question was at what pH chlorine in water acts as hypochlorite. So, more than 10, at a pH greater than 10, the chlorine in water will act as hypochlorite only, because 100% of chlorine is present in the form of hypochlorite. Okay. Just a second. I think again this stopped. Which slide can you see right now? Hello.
Second question, ma'am. Second slide only, like the
Okay.
second question.
Okay. Thank you. Just a second. Yeah, so question number 3, the normal dose of chlorine during post chlorination is. So we have two forms of chlorination, pre-chlorination and post-chlorination. So what do you mean by pre-chlorination and post-chlorination? Pre-chlorination means the chlorination process is done before filtration of the water. So chlorination of water is done before filtration of the water, and in post-chlorination the chlorination is done after the filtration of water. So once the water is filtered, all the organic matters are removed from the water, and then the chlorination is done to remove the remaining substances in water that are infecting the water. Okay, that needs to be cleared out from water. So if we are already filtering the water, we are removing most of the organic matter. So that means less chlorine will be required to do the chlorination, since there are less substances present in the water that needs to be purified using chlorination method. That needs to be disinfected using chlorine. Okay, so that means in post chlorination process we need less amount of chlorine. So the dose of chlorine will be very small. So if you see in these options, 0.1 to 0.2 ppm is the smallest dose, and it is like this is the dose that is required for the chlorine for doing the post chlorination process. Okay, so I hope there is no doubt between pre-chlorination and post-chlorination. So pre-chlorination means the chlorination is done before the filtration of water, and post-chlorination means the chlorination is done after filtration of water. Okay. Moving to question number 4. During chlorination, with the rise in temperature of water, the death rate of bacteria. So what will happen to the death rate of bacteria if during chlorination the temperature of water is raised? So if we increase the temperature of water, what will happen to the death rate of bacteria? Anybody?
Increase.
Yeah, it will increase. Okay, so the death rate of bacteria will increase with the rise of temperature of water during chlorination. Okay, so this was a simple question. Okay, so the next question, question number 5. Hypochlorous acid dissociates through the following reaction: HOCl goes to H plus plus OCl minus. So HOCl dissociates into H plus and OCl minus, and the K value is given. Dissociation constant of this dissociation reaction is given as 2.7 into 10 raised to the power of minus 8 at 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, so what did they ask? Calculate the ratio of concentration of OCl minus divided by the concentration of HOCl. So we have to find the ratio of the concentrations of OCl minus and HOCl present at a solution pH of 2, and the pH is given. So in the initial classes also I have told you what do you mean by dissociation constant, how do we define dissociation constant. So dissociation constant can be written in terms of the concentration of the products and the reactant. So you have two products, H plus and OCl minus. So the concentration of H plus multiplied by the concentration of OCl minus divided by the concentration of HOCl. Now in the question we have been asked to find the ratio of OCl minus by HOCl. So from where will we get the value of H plus concentration? If you see in the question, we have the pH given, right? So if you see the solution, so if the pH is given as 2, what will be the H plus ion concentration? It will be, so how do we define pH? pH is minus log of H plus. Okay, so minus log of H plus ion concentration is 2. So this log is basically log base 10. So minus log base 10, H plus ion concentration is 2. That means H plus ion concentration will be equal to 10 raised to the power of minus 2. Sorry. So 10 raised to the power of minus 2. So now we have Ka is equal to 2.7 into 10 raised to the power of minus 8. This is equal to H plus ion concentration multiplied by OCl minus concentration divided by HOCl. So H plus ion concentration is 10 raised to the power minus 2. So OCl minus concentration divided by HOCl concentration will be equal to 2.7 into 10 raised to the power minus 8 divided by 10 raised to the power of minus 2. That means the 10 raised to the power of minus 2 will go in the numerator, it will be 10 raised to the power of plus 2. So minus 8 plus 2 is minus 6. So your final answer will be 2.7 into 10 raised to the power of minus 6.
Ma'am, one just query, ma'am, why we divide that H plus or OCl minus divided by HOCl? Uh,
That
can you
was the
please explain?
question.
I'm not,
That
solution
was
I
the,
understand, ma'am, but con- yes, ma'am, concept I'm not understand.
uh, so you are asking this step, right? The,
Ma'am, I'm asking. Yes, ma'am.
where it is written we know H plus into OCl minus upon HOCl is equal to,
Yes,
yeah. So,
yes, ma'am. Like why we like this?
so I'll explain. So, if you see, K is basically the dissociation constant. Now, your H plus is, HOCl is dissociating into H plus and OCl minus. Okay, your reaction is basically HOCl goes to H plus and OCl minus. Okay, so if that means your HOCl is dissociated into two compounds. Now if I have to define the dissociation constant, it's like the rate constant only. So if I have to determine the dissociation constant, it will be the concentration of the products that are there on the right hand side of the equation. Okay, so on the right hand side of the equation, what do we have? We have H plus and we have OCl minus. So concentrations, and since there is an addition sign, the concentrations are multiplied. Okay, so concentration of H plus multiplied by concentration of OCl minus. Now what is remaining in the solution? Let's say in a beaker I took some HOCl and it is dissociating on its own into H plus and OCl minus. Okay, so if I have to see the dissociation constant in the forward reaction, it will be H plus into OCl minus, this part is fine, divided by whatever you started with. So whatever is remaining in the solution after the dissociation, so that is the concentration of HOCl. Okay, so this is how we define the dissociation constant. That's why, so if you see in the question, Ka is written, right? Ka is nothing but the dissociation constant. Okay, Ka is nothing but the dissociation constant. So for this reaction, Ka is equal to H plus into OCl minus divided by HOCl. Okay, and that is equal to 2.7 into 10 raised to the power of minus 8. So that is exactly how they have written. So they have written H plus multiplied by OCl minus divided by HOCl is equal to 2.7 into 10 raised to the power of minus 8. Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. So once you have this, then I hope you understood how to calculate H plus ion concentration from pH. So pH is equal to 2. So that means H plus ion concentration will be equal to 10 raised to the power of minus 2. Okay. And then since you have the H plus ion concentration in the question, they asked OCl minus divided by HOCl. So you just take that H plus ion concentration on the right hand side and divided by this 2.7 into 10 raised to the power of minus 8. I hope it's clear now. So the answer
Yes,
is,
it's clear.
yeah, thank you. So the answer is 2.7 into 10 raised to the power of minus 6, that is option number B. Okay. So option number B is the correct answer. So moving on to the next question. Chlorine demand of water is equal to. So how do we define chlorine demand? Anybody wants to answer? So what do you mean by chlorine demand? So chlorine demand is nothing but the amount of applied chlorine minus the amount of residual chlorine. Okay, so the answer is D, difference of applied chlorine and the residual chlorines. So what do you mean by applied chlorine and residual chlorine? So when we are doing chlorination of water for disinfecting the water, we are adding some certain amount of we are adding certain amount of chlorines in the water. Okay, so we have, let's say I added X grams of chlorine in some water. Now in that water there will be certain organic matter will be present that will react with the chlorine to form trihalomethanes kind of compounds. Then there will be some amines present that will react with the chlorine to form the chloramines. Then other things, whatever is present in the water, everything will keep on reacting with the chlorine. Okay. Now some things will be removed from the water, some things will remain in the water. So now whatever I have added, whatever amount of chlorine I have added in the water to start this chlorination process, that is the applied chlorine. Okay, the amount of chlorine I have added, I have applied to the water for doing the chlorination. After the reaction of different materials that are present in the water, after those things react with the chlorine, what will happen? There will be some other compounds that will form, that will remain in the water as a solution. So like when chlorine is added in the water, it might convert into hypochlorous acid, as I have already explained, HOCl, or it can be in form of OCl minus, or it can react with certain amines to form chloroamines. Okay, so these compounds are, they remain in the water and they are considered as the residual chlorines. So chlorine demand is calculated by subtracting residual chlorine from the applied chlorine. So that is the amount of chlorine that is required by the water. So your residual chlorine should not increase the increase in amount, because then again those residual chlorines might have certain health hazards that can be harmful for drinking purposes. So if we are disinfecting the water, at the end we want to drink that water. So if we are adding chlorine to disinfect that water and then there are certain residual chlorine compounds that are present in the water that are in turn harmful for my body, I will not be able to drink that water even after doing the disinfection using chlorine. So that's why your residual chlorine amount should remain less, and that is how we determine experimentally how much chlorine should be added so that your residual chlorines are less in concentration. So to calculate that, we calculate the chlorine demand. Okay. So answer for this question is difference of applied and residual chlorines. Okay. So chlorine demand is a very critical factor that is calculated when calculating the amount of chlorine that has to be added for doing the chlorination process. So the next question is oxidation of ammonia into nitrites is performed by. So you must have studied nitrogen fixation, right? So in nitrogen fixation, what is happening? The nitrogen is getting converted into ammonia, and then from that it is converted into nitrites, then nitrates, and the whole assimilation goes on, and then later the denitrification process goes on, where the nitrates are then converted into nitrites again, and then it gets converted into nitrogen and it goes back to the atmosphere. So this is a whole nitrogen fixation cycle, nitrogen cycle that goes on. So in that process, there are certain bacteria that helps in doing each step of this fixation. So some bacteria can convert ammonia to nitrites, some can convert nitrites to nitrates, some can do the denitrification. So in this question, they have asked which bacteria can perform the oxidation of ammonia into nitrite. So the answer for this question is Nitrosomonas. Nitrosomonas are the bacteria that can convert ammonia into nitrite. Okay. So other than that, if you see, there are other nitrogen fixing bacteria, nitrobacters and rhizobium. E. coli is not involved in the nitrogen cycle. Nitrobacter, it can convert nitrites to nitrates. So the next step of nitrogen cycle after Nitrosomonas. So you have nitrogen. So the nitrogen is fixed into ammonia. Nitrogen is fixed into ammonia, and it can be facilitated by the bacteria rhizobium. So these rhizobium, they generally are in a symbiotic association with the roots of the leguminous plants. All these legumes that we eat, so the plants of those legumes, the roots of those legumes, they have these bacteria in their association. So the bacteria derive nutrition from the plant, and the bacteria in turn fixes nitrogen into ammonia, and that can be used up by the plant for its function. So what this bacteria does, it converts nitrogen into ammonia. Then the next step of nitrogen fixation is ammonia into nitrite. Who is doing that? Nitrosomonas. So nitrosomonas are another bacteria. These are also present generally in soils. So they convert the ammonia into nitrites. Then comes in picture nitrobacter. So nitrobacter, they convert these nitrites into nitrates. Okay. So it's one step are done by one genus of bacteria. Okay. So the answer for this question is Nitrosomonas, oxidation of ammonia into nitrites. Sorry. Okay, the next question again. Yeah. So, in fresh bleaching powder, the chlorine content is about. So, what is the chlorine content in the fresh bleaching powder? So, the chlorine content in the fresh bleaching powder, it is almost around 30 to 35%. Okay. So, 30 to 35% is the chlorine content in fresh bleaching powder. Okay. So, the next question is, what is the oxidation state of nitrogen and glycine? So, what is glycine? Glycine is an amino acid with the and it does not have any side chain. It has a hydrogen atom as a side chain. It's the smallest amino acid structurally. So, what is the oxidation state of nitrogen? So, how do we calculate the oxidation state of any of the atom in the molecule? So, if I have to calculate the oxidation state of nitrogen, I will have to first see what all is attached to the nitrogen. Okay. So, if you see in the structure of glycine, the nitrogen is connected to two hydrogen atoms and one CH2. Okay. So, two hydrogen atom and one CH2. So, now everybody knows what is the oxidation state of hydrogen. It is in +1 oxidation state. Okay. So, hydrogen has +1 oxidation state. So, two hydrogens will have +2 oxidation state. If two hydrogens have +2 oxidation state, that means the nitrogen attached to those two oxygen will get -2 charge. Okay. So, it will be -2 from these two hydrogen, and now this side one more CH2 is added. So, now between nitrogen and carbon, which is more electronegative? If you see, nitrogen is more electronegative. Okay. So, the nitrogen will withdraw the electron towards it, giving the carbon slightly positive charge and giving the nitrogen slightly negative charge. So, now since it's one carbon, it will get -1 charge, sorry, +1 charge, and that means the nitrogen will get -1 charge. So, that means -2 from hydrogen and -1 from carbon. So, total is -3. Okay. So, -2 -1 is -3. So, the oxidation state of nitrogen and glycine is -3. Okay. I hope this is clear how to solve the how to calculate the oxidation state. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the next question, question number 10. Breakpoint chlorination of water involves the addition of sufficient amount of chlorine to. So, breakpoint chlorination of water involves the addition of sufficient amount of chlorine to. Option number A is react with any ammonia and readily oxidizable matter. present in water. Option number B is kill the Giardia cysts present. C option is react with ferrous iron only. D option is reduce the growth of bacteria in filters. Okay. So, breakpoint chlorination of water. Why do we do chlorination of water? I have told you we do it to do disinfection. Okay. And why chlorine is added? Chlorine is added so that it can react with different types of ammonia and readily oxidizable matters present in water. So, the option number A is the correct answer. React with ammonia and readily oxidizable matter present in water. Okay. So, what is breakpoint chlorination? What is breakpoint of chlorination? So, if you see, ammonia reacts to the chlorine to form either nitrogen and HCl, or sometimes it can react to the chlorine to form nitric acid and HCl. Okay. And the organic compounds can react with the chlorine to form trihalomethanes. This I have already explained what are trihalomethanes. So, when these ammonia, so sometimes what happens, ammonia reacts with chlorines and it gets attached to the chlorine to form chloroamines. Okay, chloroamines are formed. So, those are the form of residual chlorine that is present in the water after chlorination. Okay. So, and I have already explained what are free residual chlorines. So, when chlorine is added to the water, Cl2, HOCl and OCl minus are present as free chlorine residuals. So, when chlorine is added to distilled water, if you see the straight line curve that is shown in this curve, this straight line is basically representing that whatever chlorine is added, that and the residual amount of chlorine, it is proportional, because there is nothing present in distilled water, it is the control. So, there is nothing that can react with the chlorine. So, whatever chlorine is added, it is present as the in the form of residual chlorine. Okay. On the y axis it is shown the residual chlorine, and on the x axis it is showing the chlorine dose. So, but in our normal water sample, the drinking water sample or any water sample if you take, depending on how much pollutants are present in the water, different substances will react with chlorine. So, initially when we start adding the chlorine, the residual chlorine amount will increase slightly, and then it will start reacting with the substances and the residual chlorine will decrease, because the whatever chlorine is added, it is getting reacted with the substances present. So, there is no residual chlorine that is being formed. So, it will decrease after certain point, and after certain point, once all the substances have reacted with the chlorine, then after this point the free chlorine residuals will predominate, they will increase in number. So, initially combined chlorine residuals. What are combined chlorine residuals? Like these chloroamines, these are combined chlorine residuals. So, chlorine will react with the ammonia present in the water and form the combined chlorine residuals, and it will decrease in some time, and then after that, if we keep on increasing the chlorine dose, the free chlorine residuals will increase in number. Okay. So, the point where the combined chlorine residual is decreasing and the free chlorine residual is starting to increase, that particular point is the break point of chlorination. Okay. So, I hope it is clear. What is breakpoint of chlorination? So breakpoint of chlorination is basically the point where the combined chlorine residue is decreasing and the free chlorine residuals are increasing. So what is happening during chlorination? The chlorine is reacting to ammonia and organic oxidizable matter present in the water. Okay. So coming to the next question, THMs. THMs, what were THMs? I have told you. What was THM? In the first question only I have told you. Anybody? What are THMs? It was the first question of this session. What is the full form of THM?
Trihalomethane.
Yes, trihalomethanes. Okay. So trihalomethanes are produced in drinking water during chlorination. The THMs are. So how does THM get how does it produce in the drinking water during chlorination? So during chlorination, the chlorine reacts with certain organic matters, which in turn gets converted into trihalomethanes. Okay. So these THMs are actually carcinogenic. What do you mean by carcinogenic? Carcinogenic means something that can cause cancer in the cells. Okay, that can convert the normal cells into cancerous cells. Okay, so these are carcinogens, are type of materials or type of compounds that can go in our body and can make the normal cells convert into cancerous cells. Uh, they can basically inhibit the cell cycle process in some way or the other, so that the cell uh, will keep continuously cell will continuously divide and become cancerous in nature. Okay. So these THMs are carcinogenic, and that is why during chlorination, all these factors, chlorine demand and the break point of chlorine, these factors are necessary to be determined when doing chlorination of water, because these are the factors that can control these types of carcinogenic compounds to be produced in water after the process. Okay. Because at the end we are doing the chlorination process for our own benefit. We don't want any other harmful chemicals to form in the water, so that it can basically cause harm to our cells, our body. Okay. So the next question is, in iodometric titration method, using sodium thiosulfate as the titrant and starch as the indicator, the end point is determined through the appearance of. So in an iodometric titration, what is happening? We are titrating the iodine with sodium thiosulfate. So sodium thiosulfate is added slowly in the reaction mixture where free iodine is present, and that free iodine will react with the sodium thiosulfate, and once there is no more sodium thiosulfate is present, whatever free iodine will form, that will react with the starch and the color of the starch, so the color of the product that forms, like when starch reacts with iodine, the color of that product is blue in color. So, blue black or blue in color. So, the answer for this question is blue color. So, in an iodometric titration, it is done to determine the total chlorine residuals. So, I have told you there are two types of chlorine residuals after doing the chlorination. One is combined chlorine residuals and one is free chlorine residuals. So, free chlorine residuals are basically Cl2, HOCl and OCl minus, and combined chlorine residuals are the chloroamines. Okay, chloramines are the combined chlorine residuals. So, NH2Cl or NHCl2. NH2Cl is basically monochloroamine. One hydrogen is replaced with one chlorine. NHCl2 is dichloroamine. Two hydrogens are replaced with two chlorine atoms. So, when Cl2 is reacted with iodide, it oxidizes the iodide into iodine. Similarly, if you see the second reaction, HOCl, when it reacts with the iodide ion, it again oxidizes it into iodine and Cl minus plus H2O is released. Then third reaction, OCl minus, which is again a free chlorine residual. OCl minus can also react with iodide to liberate free iodine. It can oxidize iodide ion into iodine and in turn release Cl minus plus H2O. The fourth reaction, monochloroamines. These monochloroamines, they can also react with the iodide ion and it can convert iodide into iodine and ammonia is released. Similarly, for dichloroamines also, dichloroamines can react with iodide and the iodide gets oxidized into iodine. So, all these chlorine residuals, either the free chlorine residuals or the combined chlorine residuals, they all can react with iodide and can liberate iodine. This liberated iodine is titrated with standard sodium thiosulfate solution. So, what happens is when sodium thiosulfate is added, the iodine that is liberated from these reactions, these 5 reactions, those iodine can react with the sodium thiosulfate and can get reduced to iodide ion, and in turn the sodium thiosulfate, the thiosulfate ion will get oxidized into S4O6 2 minus. Okay. So, I2 plus 2S2O3 2 minus gives 2I minus, that is I2 is reduced to I minus, and then S2O3 2 minus gets oxidized into S4O6 2 minus. Okay. So, in this reaction what happens? So, this is basically the principle of titration. So, when all these 5 reactions are happening, I2 is liberated and that I2 is reacting with the sodium thiosulfate that is added as the titrant. Okay. Once all the sodium thiosulfate is consumed, any amount of I2 that is liberated after that, that I2 will react with the starch. Starch is added as the indicator and it is a very famous reaction. Starch reacts with iodine to give blue color. Okay. So, any extra iodine that forms in the solution after the reaction with sodium thiosulfate, it will react with the starch and it will change the color of the solution. Okay. So, I hope this iodometric titration is clear, how they are doing iodometric titration. basically whatever chlorine residuals are present, they are reacted with the iodide ion to form the free iodine, and that free iodine then reacts with the sodium thiosulfate to again get reduced to iodide, and whatever remaining iodine will be there after the reaction of sodium thiosulfate, that remaining iodine will react with the starch to form the blue color, to give the blue color. So, moving on to the next question.
Ma'am, in the exam, this reaction is coming like this. You react with that, and then reactions is coming in the exam, final
The,
exam.
which reaction you are talking about in particular?
Ma'am, in the fall, five reactions like Cl, chlorine react with
Yeah, these are
iodines
very
and
common
H2.
reactions. You don't even have to remember these reactions. These are, if you see, Cl2 is reacting with the iodide ion. So, in turn, what is happening? The iodide ion is getting oxidized into iodine, and the chlorine is getting reduced into chloride ion. Okay. So, it's just one thing is getting oxidized and one thing is getting reduced. Same for HOCl. HOCl with iodide ion. If you see again, the iodide is getting oxidized into iodine, and HOCl is getting reduced into Cl minus, like it is first dissociating into HO and H and OCl, and then uh, OCl minus will release that Cl minus, and then H and O that will react, and like the reaction is happening in aqueous solution, so it will form H2O. So these reactions are not very difficult to remember. If you go through it once, you will remember these reactions. Okay. So question number 13. If the chlorine dose applied in a water sample is 1.5 mg per liter and the chlorine demand of that water is 1.3 mg per liter, then the residual chlorine is. So, chlorine demand I have already explained in the previous question, like in few questions back. I told you what is chlorine demand. How do we write chlorine demand? Chlorine demand is nothing but applied chlorine minus residual chlorine. Okay, chlorine applied minus chlorine residual. So now, if the applied chlorine is 1.5 mg per liter, concentration of applied chlorine is 1.5 mg per liter, and the chlorine demand is 1.3 mg per liter. It's very easy to calculate the residual chlorine. Let's see. So, chlorine demand is equal to chlorine applied minus residual chlorine. So, chlorine applied is 1.5 mg per liter per ml. Is it per ml or per liter? So, it's per liter. Sorry, it's a typing mistake. So, chlorine applied is 1.5 mg per liter. Chlorine demand is 1.3 mg per liter. So, chlorine demand is equal to 1.3 mg per liter, that is equal to chlorine applied, that is 1.5 mg per liter minus residual chlorine. So, if you solve this, residual chlorine will be equal to 1.5 mg per liter minus 1.3 mg per liter. So, 1.5 minus 1.3 is 0.2. So, the answer is 0.2 mg per liter. 0.2 mg per liter. That is option number A is the correct answer. Okay. So this is very simple. Just chlorine demand is given, chlorine applied chlorine dose is given. So you have to find the chlorine residual chlorine concentration. Okay, option number A is the correct answer. Okay. So the next question is question number 14. You are titrating iodine with sodium thiosulfate. Molecular weight of sodium thiosulfate is m. Its equivalent weight is. So sodium thiosulfate, I have told you, when it is reacting with iodine, it is reducing the iodine into iodide and it is getting oxidized. Sodium thiosulfate itself gets oxidized. Okay. So let's see the reaction. The reaction is basically S2O3 2 minus plus I2 is equal to S4O6 2 minus plus 2I minus. That means if you see, S2O3 2 minus is getting converted into S4O6 2 minus. 2 moles of S2O3 2 minus, that is S2O3 2 minus is nothing but the sodium thiosulfate in ionic form. So sodium and thiosulfate ion will get dissociated in water. So that's why it is written in this form. So 2 moles of sodium thiosulfate, 2 moles of thiosulfate ion will give 1 mole of S4O6 2 minus. Okay. So if you see the charge here, on left hand side you have S2O3 2 minus. Okay. 2 moles, that means it is minus 4 charge. Total charge is minus 4, 2 into 2. And if you see the charge on RHS, for now you forget the 2 electrons. So if you have 1 mole of S4O6 2 minus, that means what is the net charge? Net charge is minus 2, but the total charge should be equal both the sides so that the net charge can be 0. So if I have to equate the charge both the sides, so S2O3 2 minus, this side is 4 minus 4 and the RHS is minus 2. So I have to add 2 more charges, 2 more negative charges. So that means 2 electrons are added. So what, that this 2 electron is nothing but showing the valence electrons. So 2 electrons are required to oxidize S2O3 2 minus into S4O6 2 minus. Okay. So if 2 molecules of S2O3, if 2 moles of S2O3 2 minus require 2 electrons, that means 1 mole will require 1 electron. Okay, that means the number of equivalents for sodium thiosulfate is 1. And how do we define equivalent weight? Equivalent weight is nothing but the molecular weight divided by equivalent number. So if the molecular weight is m, the equivalent number is 1, then m divided by 1, equivalent weight will be same as the molecular weight of sodium thiosulfate. Okay. Is this question clear?
Ma'am, please repeat that question.
Yeah. So what is the doubt?
noticed that the reaction is like S4O62 minus plus 2E. How it's come like this that I'm not getting.
Yeah, I'll explain. So, if you see in the previous question, I can show better. Wait. Yeah. So, in this reaction, the last reaction, if you see, I2 plus 2S2O3 2 minus gives 2I minus plus S4O6 2 minus. Okay, this reaction is clear. So, if you see this 2S2O3 2, now we have broken this reaction into two parts. Let's just focus on the thiosulfate ion. So, thiosulfate ion 2S2O3 2 minus. Okay. So, 2 moles of S2O3 2 minus is giving 1 mole of S4O6 2 minus. This part is clear. So, now if you
This
see,
part is clear.
yeah. So, now if you see 2S2O3 2 minus, what is the net charge? The net charge is minus 4, 2 into 2 is 4, and since minus 2 is there, so 2S2O3 2 minus, the net charge is minus 4 on left hand side. Okay. On right hand side you have S4O6 2 minus. S4O6 2 minus means the net charge is 2 minus, that is minus 2. Okay, because it's just 1 mole, so it is 2 into 1, 2, so minus 2. So, to balance the charges, what do we have to do? We have to add 2 negative charges on the right hand side. Okay, so we'll add 2 electrons. That means 2 electrons are required to convert S2O3 2 minus into S4O6 2 minus. Okay, 2 moles of S2O3 2 minus will get converted into 1 mole of S4O6 2 minus, and 2 electrons will be released. Okay, you understand this statement? 2S2O3 2 minus will get oxidized into 1 mole of S4O6 2 minus, and 2 electrons will be released.
That electron ma'am come into the iodine. This come attached with
Yes,
iodine.
and those electrons are taken. Yes, exactly. So, the 2 electrons that are released, now you see the second part of the reaction, that is I2 goes to 2I minus. So, now this side the charge is 0, and on right hand side you have the charge as 2 minus 2. So, I2 will take up those 2 electrons that are released from S2O3, and I2 will get reduced into 2I minus, and S2O3 will get oxidized into S4O6 2 minus. Now, is it clear? So, basically S2O3 2 minus is giving 2 electrons to oxidize, to reduce the iodine. Okay. So, the number of electrons per molecule, now we have to see. To find the equivalent number, we have to see the number of valence electrons per molecule. So, now two molecules of S2O3 were giving 2 electrons. That means 1 molecule of S2O3 will give 1 electron. That means the valence number of valence electrons for S2O3, sodium thiosulfate, S2O3 2 minus, the number of valence electron is 1. So, now I will go to the question. Yeah. So, if you see, molecular weight of sodium thiosulfate is given as m. Equivalent weight is nothing but molecular weight divided by number of equivalents. Okay, equivalents means number of valence electrons. So, number of valence electrons is 1. So, m divided by 1 is m. Okay, so answer is option number C. I hope this is clear now. You can ask if there's any
Yes,
other
ma'am.
doubt. Yeah, okay. Okay, then I'll move to the next question now. Okay. Can you mute your mic, please? So, question number 15. You are performing the oxidation of ammonia or ammonium salts to produce nitrites or nitrates. The process is called. So, we discussed this question in terms of which bacteria is converting ammonia into nitrites. Now we have to see what is it called in terms of chemistry. So we have 4 types of reactions mentioned in the options. A is disproportionation, B is denitrification, C is nitrification, and D is decomposition. So conversion of ammonia, oxidation of ammonia into nitrites or nitrates, that means the ammonia is getting oxidized into nitrites and nitrates. The nitrogen in the nitrogen fixation cycle. So the first step, what was the first step I told you? The first step was nitrogen is fixed into ammonia. Now this ammonia gets oxidized into nitrites. Then the nitrites get oxidized into nitrates. Okay. And then the opposite process starts. So the nitrates go back to the nitrogen. Okay. This is the nitrogen cycle. So the process of oxidation of ammonia into nitrites or nitrates, it is called nitrification. Okay. So the answer for this question is nitrification. We will see what all other reactions mean. So nitrification, you understood, it is oxidation of ammonia into nitrites or nitrates. So let's see the other reactions as well. Yeah. So the first reaction is disproportionation reaction. What do you mean by disproportionation? Disproportionation is basically you have one oxidation state of nitrogen present in the and you are making two compounds out of that one nitrogen compound, and both the compounds now have different oxidation state than the reactant. Okay, so you had NO2, nitrogen dioxide. Okay, nitrogen dioxide is there. The oxidation state of nitrogen dioxide, the oxidation state of nitrogen in nitrogen dioxide is +4. How do we calculate the oxidation state? What is the oxidation state of oxygen? What is the oxidation state of oxygen? Anybody? One oxygen atom has what charge? So one oxygen atom has -2 charge, right? So if one oxygen atom has -2 charge, two oxygen atoms will have 2 into 2 -4 charge. Okay. So if two oxygen atom has -4 charge, it will give the nitrogen +4. So the oxidation state of nitrogen and nitrogen dioxide is +4. Okay. And when it reacts with water, it can form HNO3 and HNO2 both. Okay. So now what is the oxidation state of nitrogen in HNO3? It is plus 5. How do we get it? How do we get this plus 5? So we have oxidation state of oxygen as -2. Okay. So 3 into -2 will be -6. Okay. And hydrogen since it can have a positive oxidation state. So the H oxidation state of H is +1, H plus, okay, in form of H plus. So H plus means +1. So if oxygen has -2 oxidation state and 3 oxygen will have -6 oxidation state, that will give the nitrogen +6 oxidation state. But this hydrogen has +1 oxidation state. So that will give the nitrogen -1 oxidation state. So +6 -1 will be what? +5. Okay. So HNO3, the oxidation state of nitrogen is +5. And if you see the oxidation state of nitrogen in HNO2, it is +3. Why +3? Now oxygen again has -2 charge, so -2 into 2 is -4, and then hydrogen has +1 oxidation state, so -4 means nitrogen gets +4 and hydrogen ka +1 means nitrogen gets -1. So +4 -1 means +3. Okay. So a nitrogen in a +4 oxidation state a nitrogen in a +4 oxidation state is getting converted into two nitrogens, one in +5 oxidation state and one in +3 oxidation state. This is called disproportionation reaction. Okay, this is a reaction of this is a disproportionation reaction for nitrogen. Okay. So the next reaction is decomposition reaction. So in decomposition reaction, you have 2NO2 goes to 2NO plus O2. Okay, that means NO2 is decomposing into two molecules. One NO2 is decomposing into two forms. One is NO2, one is NO, one is O2. So nitrogen dioxide is getting decomposed into nitrogen oxide and oxygen. Okay. Similarly, HNO3. What is HNO3? Nitric acid. Nitric acid is getting converted into nitrogen dioxide plus oxygen plus water. Okay. So it is decomposition reaction. The reactant is decomposing into two or more products. Next is denitrification. So we have seen nitrification. What was nitrification? Conversion of ammonia into nitrates or nitrites. So if you see the last reactions, nitrification, there are two steps, nitration and nitration. So ammonia gets converted into nitrite and nitrites then get converted into nitrates. Okay. So I told you ammonia getting converted into nitrites. Which bacteria was doing that reaction? Nitrosomonas. And nitrobacter were doing the nitration part, nitrites into nitrates. Okay. Now if you see the denitrification reaction, it is exactly opposite of the nitrification reaction. Now in denitrification reaction, nitrates first gets converted into nitrites Then from nitrites it gets converted into nitrogen oxide, and then it goes and forms molecular nitrogen. Okay. So all four reactions are clear, which is what? So in the question it was asked ammonia to nitrites or nitrates, that is nitrification. If it was the opposite way, nitrites or nitrates to nitrogen, it will be denitrification. Okay. So moving to the next question now. This is clear, right? Till now whatever we have discussed, it's clear, right? Okay, so we will move to the next question. Question number 16. In an experiment, a concentration of 0.1 grams per meter cube of free available chlorine affects 99% kill of bacteria in 8 minutes. Calculate the disinfection rate constant. Now, we have the concentration of free available chlorine that is killing 99% of the bacteria in 8 minutes. So, in 8 minutes 99% of bacteria are getting killed by 0.1 grams of chlorine. So, how do we calculate the disinfection rate? Let's see. So, we know that Nt is equal to N0 multiplied by e raised to the power of minus k into minus c into minus t. So, k is the dissociation rate constant, c is the concentration of the applied chlorine, and t is the time taken for the bacteria to get killed. So basically Nt is the number of final bacteria, like final number of bacteria. N0 is the initial number of bacteria, and T is the time taken to kill the bacteria to reach that final number of bacteria. Okay. So Nt is the number of bacteria that is killed from N0 in time t. Okay. So now we have been given that 99% of bacteria are killed. That means how many bacteria are remaining? 1% bacteria are remaining. So let's say the initial number of bacteria was 100. Okay. So if the initial number of bacteria was 100, that means N0 was 100 and 99% bacteria is killed. So 99% of 100 is 99. So 100 minus 99 will be 1. That means Nt will be 1. So if total number of bacteria, initial number of bacteria was 100, final number of bacteria will be 1. Time taken to kill those many bacteria, it is 8 minutes. Concentration is given as 0.1. We have to solve for k. So 1 upon 100 is equal to e raised to the power of minus k into 0.1 into 8. Okay, when you will solve this, you will get the value of k to be 5.756 per minute. Okay, is this clear? I hope this is clear to everyone. E raised to the power of minus. Yeah, is there any doubt? So e raised to the power of minus k into 0.1 into 8. So 8 into 0.1 will be 0.8, then minus k into, so that is minus 0.8 k will be equal to natural log of 1 upon 100, and then we will have to solve it, and you will get the value of k to be 5.756 per minute. Okay, so that is the option number B. So option number B, the disinfection rate constant is 5.756 per minute. Okay, so we will move to the next question. Which of the following is the correct order of disinfectants arranged according to their increasing order of disinfection power? Okay, so now we have 4 disinfectants given: ozone, hypochlorous acid, monochloroamines, and trichloroamines. NCl3 is trichloroamines. So we have to tell which is the most powerful disinfectant and which is the least powerful disinfectant. Okay. So for this question, the answer is option number D. Okay. So trichloroamines are the least powerful disinfectants. Then comes the monochloroamines. Then comes the hypochlorous acid, and most powerful disinfectant is ozone. So what ozone does is, ozone in water, it gets broken into oxygen and releases nascent oxygen molecules. So O2 plus O. O3 breaks into O2 plus O. Okay. So that nascent oxygen, it is a very strong oxidizing agent, and it can remove the organic matter by oxidizing them, as well as it can kill the microorganisms. So what it can do, it can destroy the cell wall of the microorganisms in order to disinfect the water. Okay. So ozone is the most powerful disinfectant among all of these. So and the plus point of using ozone is, ozone does not give a bitter taste to the water as opposed to chlorination. So all the other compounds are basically results of chlorination. So chlorine, when added to water, it gives kind of a foul smell and a taste. So that is not there in case of ozone. The next powerful disinfectant is HOCl. So among all the chlorinated compounds, so HOCl is the free chlorine molecule, and the monochloroamines and the trichloroamines, these chloroamines are basically the combined chlorine residuals. So these chloroamines don't have very strong disinfectant power as compared to HOCl. So HOCl is the most powerful disinfectant, the next most powerful disinfectant. Then comes the monochloroamines, and the trichloroamines are the least powerful disinfectant. Okay. So ozone is the most powerful disinfectant because ozone can easily produce the strong oxidizing agent, that is the nascent oxygen, that can go and oxidize all the organic matter as well as go and kill all the microorganisms that are present in the water. Okay. I hope this is clear. Moving to the next question. Question number 18. A rural water supply scheme serves a population of 10,000 at the rate of 50 liter per capita per day. For the chlorine dose of 2 ppm, what will be the required amount of bleaching powder with 20% available chlorine? Okay, so we have the population given. Population is 10,000. The rural water supply rate is given 50 liter per capita per day. Okay, so per capita per day. Per capita means the population number that is given. Okay, so for 10,000, for a population of 10,000, the rate is 50 liters per day. Okay, for the chlorine dose of 2 ppm. Now the initial chlorine dose is 2 ppm. What will be the required amount of bleaching powder with 20% available chlorine? Now this bleaching powder has 20% available chlorine. So what will be the total amount of chlorine bleaching powder to disinfect the water that is present in the area with a population of 10,000? Okay, so let's see. So population is given as 10,000. So supply is 50 liter per capita per day. That means total supply will be 50 liter into 10,000. That is 50 into 10 raised to the power of 4 liters per day. Okay. And if you convert liter into meter cube, it will be 5 into 10 square meter cube per day. Okay. So chlorine dose, what is it given? It is given as 2 ppm. ppm means parts per million. Okay, parts per million. So if you convert parts per million into kg per meter cube, it will be 2 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3 kg per meter cube. Okay, this is just the conversion factor. So chlorine is given as 2 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3 kg per meter cube multiplied by 5 into 10 raised to the power of 2 meter cube per day. So that means it will be the amount of chlorine required. Amount of chlorine required is whatever the chlorine dose is multiplied by whatever the total supply. So chlorine dose into total supply, it is coming to 1 kg. So 1 kg of chlorine is required. Now our bleaching powder has 20% available chlorine. So 1 kg of chlorine will be achieved from how much of bleaching powder? So let's say 20% of chlorine is available. So if we take 1 kg of bleaching powder, that means 20% of 1 kg means 200 grams. So in 1 kg of bleaching powder, only 200 grams of chlorine will be available. So in 2 kg, 400 grams will be available. So like that, in 5 kg of bleaching powder, 1 kg of chlorine will be available. Okay. Did you understand this? So amount of chlorine required is 1 kg, but in 1 kg of bleaching powder, only 20% of chlorine is available. So if I need 1 kg of chlorine, we need to take 5 kg of bleaching powder to get 1 kg of chlorine. Okay. So if you see the answer, it is option number B, 5 kg. Is this question clear?
Ma'am, how you convert 15 to 10 to power 4 liter per day divided, the question answer is come 5 into 10 to power 4 meter cube per day.
50 into 10 raised to the power 4 liter per day. is equal to 5
Yes,
into
ma'am.
10
You can
square
put.
meter cube per day. So, if you see the conversion rate of liter into meter cube, so 1 liter is equal to 10 raised to the power of minus 3 meter cube. Okay. So 1 liter is equal to 10 raised to the power of minus 3 meter cube. So 50 into 10 raised to the power 4 will be equal to 50 into 10 raised to the power of 4 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3 meter cube per day. So now if you calculate 10 raised to the power of 4 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3, that is 4 minus 3 is 1. So 50 into 10, 50 into 10 means 5 into 10 square, है ना. 50 into 10 is 500, 5 into 10 square is also equal to 500. Did you understand? So 1 liter is equal to 10 raised to the
Yes.
power of minus 3 meter cube. So 50 into 10 raised to the power of 4 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3, that is 4 into 10 raised to the that is 4 minus 3 is 1. So 50 into 10 or 5 into 10 square. Okay. Is this clear? I hope this is clear. So we'll move to the next question. What is the remaining percentage of pathogen after 1 minute of contact time during chlorination? So it is similar question to what we have solved previously. In this case, we have to find the percentage of pathogen after 1 minute. Okay. So Nt is equal to N0 e to the power minus Kt. So K is given as 0.046 per minute. T is given as 1 minute. So Nt will be equal to N0. So let's say, Nt will be equal to N0 into e to the power of minus 0.046 into 1. Okay, so 0.046 into 1 will be 0.046 e to the power of minus 0.046. If you calculate this, I have told you the value of E is around 2.7. So 2.7 raised to the power of minus 0.046. If you calculate this, you will get 0.955. So Nt is equal to 0.955 of N0. Okay, that means if you see the percentage, so Nt is nothing but the final concentration, N0 is nothing but the initial concentration. So that means Nt has decreased 0.955 times of N0. Okay. So 0.955 times means if you convert it into percentage, you have to multiply it by 100. So 0.955 into 100 will be 95.5%. So Nt, final Nt is basically 95.5% reduction of N0. That is, if N0 is 100, then Nt will be 100 minus 95.5. Okay, that is 4.5. So 95.5 is the final answer, that is option number B. Okay, this is clear. Okay, so we will move to the next question now, the last question of the session.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
one thing I want to be asked,
yeah.
like you can mention 0.046 K is given, but in the solutions you are mentioned 0.046. Why like 1.1 you can mention here?
It is
Like talking about.
multiplied by, it is not point, it is multiplied by. It is minus K into T, right? So it is
Okay.
0.046 into 1. That dot resembles a multiplication sign, not the decimal sign. Yeah. So 0.046 into 1 is basically 0.046. So e to the power of minus 0.046, if you calculate that, you will get the answer to be 0.955. 0.955 into n0. That dot is again between n0 and 0.955. That dot resembles multiplication sign. Okay. So the next question is question number 20. So which of the following statement is correct? Statement number first is pre-chlorination minimizes the formation of THMs. B statement is the substances used for disinfection of water is known as coagulant. C is chloramines are known as free chlorine residuals. And D is all of the above. So which statement is the correct statement? We have to see. So if you see the first statement, pre-chlorination minimizes the formation of THMs, that is the correct statement. Why? I have told you pre-chlorination and post-chlorination. What is pre-chlorination? Pre-chlorination means chlorination that is done before the filtration of water, and post-chlorination means chlorination done after the filtration of water. So pre-chlorination minimizes the formation of trihalomethanes. Okay. The second statement, the substances used for disinfection of water is known as coagulant. It is a false statement. What is it called? The substances that are used for disinfection of water, these are known as the substances that are used for disinfection of water, these are known as disinfectants. Okay. So these are not known as coagulants, these are known as disinfectants. So this statement is incorrect. Chloramines are known as free chlorine residual. This is again an incorrect statement. I have told you what are free chlorine residuals. Cl2, HOCl and OCl minus. These are free chlorine residuals. Chloramines are known as combined chlorine residuals. Okay. So chloramines are known as combined chlorine residuals. So this is also an incorrect statement. The correct statement is pre-chlorination minimizes the formation of THMs. Okay. So this was the last question of this session. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. Any question you want to repeat? Otherwise, we'll end this session now. Thank you.